welcome everyone for this week's episode of The Future of Europe. We are very pleased to receive Louise Guibert. We will focus principally of the LGBTQIA+ rights in the EU, while focusing on the famous Coman case, on which she conducted a research paper. So, first, could you please introduce the case you worked on during several months in the main issue which follows from it?
Yes, sure. So first of all, thank you for having me on the stage. So the research that I worked on actually investigates the free movement of same-sex spouses within the EU, adjudicated by the CJEU. This case, 673/16, named the Coman case, as you just said, is both significant and unprecedented. It is significant because, first of all, it is a much-awaited judgment where the CJEU actually ruled that the term spouse, for the purpose of the grant of family reunification rights, under EU free movement law, includes EU citizens same-sex couple who has moved between different member states. So actually the main issue of this case was to know whether the principle laid down by the judgment regarding the right of same-sex spouse to enjoy right of residence under the famous Article 21 of TFEU, and if it could be extended to other types of rights.
Okay, so could you please tell us more about the fact of the case, please?
Yeah, sure. I actually find it really necessary to recall the facts of the case. So in the case at hand, we have Adrian Coman, who is a Romanian citizenship, such as an American citizenship, and he actually married Robert Hamilton in Brussels in 2010. So they have been together since 2002. And after years of long-distance relationships, the couple decided to settle in Romania and ask actually the Romanian authorities for Mr. Hamilton to grant a right of residence for more than 3 months as a family member of a Romanian national. The authorities actually refused, arguing that same-sex marriage is not recognized according to the national civil law of Romania. So the couple actually challenged the decision in front of the Romanian court, and moreover, the couple raised an objection of inconstitutionality of the provisions of the Romanian civil code in question.
So what was the court's response to that issue?
Actually, the European Court of Justice held that EU law required all member states to grant resident rights to same-sex spouses of EU citizens, regardless of whether the member state itself recognizes same-sex marriages. But the court actually stated that EU law prohibits discrimination on the grounds of sexual orientation, and that member states must recognize actually the legal status of same-sex marriages lawfully contracted in other member states as they would with opposite-sex marriage. Actually, in this case, the court ruling in this case was very significant because it was actually a step forward for the recognition of same-sex marriage across the EU. So, as it established a clear legal framework for the free movement and resident rights of same-sex couple. And this ruling also sent a message to member states that they cannot discriminate against same-sex couples in the exercise of their fundamental rights under the European Union law.
Okay, and what do you think about the court's response? Do you agree or do you have a different opinion?
Well, in my opinion, I first think that the ICJ response in the Coman case was, as I said, significant because it reaffirmed the principle of non-discrimination in EU law, particularly on the basis of sexual orientation. And the court's ruling recognized that the freedom of movement and residence of same-sex couples who are lawfully married in one EU member state should be protected in every other member state, regardless of whether they recognize same-sex marriage or not. Secondly, I think that the ICJ's decision in the Coman case was also very consistent with his previous rulings that have expanded the rights of same-sex couples, such as the landmark case that I will talk about a little further in the interview, of Morocco in 2018, which recognized the same right of same-sex spouses to equal treatment in areas such as social security, employment, or pension benefits. So overall, I think that the ICJ response in the Coman case was a significant step forward the recognition and the protection of rights of same-sex couples in the EU, and it also demonstrated the commitment of the EU to promoting and protecting the principles of non-discrimination and equality between same-sex couples and heterosexual couples.
Okay, perfect. So thank you for your opinion. In reading your analysis on the Coman case, I noticed that you repeatedly made reference to doctrine that you rely on in your analysis response. Could you please tell us more about those doctrines?
Yes, sure. So in my analysis on the Coman case, one relevant doctrine that can be relied upon is the principle of non-discrimination, as I just stated before. This principle, which is enshrined in the EU Charter of Fundamental Rights, prohibits discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation, among other grounds. Many academics have written about the Coman case and its significance for the principle of non-discrimination in the EU. For example, I've made a lot of research and I found an article named Coman, Extending Recognition of Same-Sex Marriage in the EU, written by Jap W. Dezwan and Dmitry Koshanov, that argued that the Coman case represents a significant step forward the recognition of same-sex marriage in the EU and demonstrates the EU's commitment to promoting equality and non-discrimination. They also note that the case highlights the importance of consistent and harmonized treatment of same-sex couples all across EU member states, which is necessary to ensure the protection of their legal rights. Another academics that I've made research on is on Laura Pinasci in her article named The ICJ on Recognition of Same-Sex Marriage, the Coman case. And in this research, she have similarly analyzed the Coman case within the concept of principle of non-discrimination. So, and the EU's commitment to promoting and protecting human rights. These scholars have helped actually to shed a light on the legal and policy implications of the Coman case and its significance for actually the future of Europe.
Okay, thank you. So in your research paper, you decided to focus exclusively on the Coman case, which remained a famous case, of course, but there is also there is any other cases on which you did research that was relevant for the analysis of the Coman case?
Yes, so as I just said, I made a lot of research and I have actually found two examples for you today to elaborate my thoughts. So some examples include the case I just mentioned before, which is the Morocco case in 2018. So this case also concerned a same-sex couple who were married in Belgium and live in Germany. In this case, the court held that EU law required Germany to grant the same pension rights to same-sex spouses as opposite-sex spouses, regardless of whether Germany recognized or not same-sex marriage. Another example on which I made research is X and other vs. Austria, which was a judgment given in 2013. So this case actually concerned a same-sex couple who were married in Canada, so outside of the EU, and thought to adopt their partner biological child in Austria, so within the EU. The court held that Austria has violated the couple's right to respect for their private and family life by denying them the opportunity to adopt a child, and that EU law required the member state to respect the legal ties created by same-sex marriage lawfully contracted in member states. And these two cases really helped me in my research, and it also demonstrates the importance of protecting the rights of same-sex couples in the EU and the need for a consistent recognition and protection of their legal rights all across the EU within all the member states.
Okay, so finally, after this very interesting discussion, what do you think will be the future of same-sex marriage within the EU? And what could the EU do to ensure continued protection after guarantee of LGBTQ rights in the future?
Thank you for your question. So the common case and similar cases related to the recognition of same-sex marriages have significant implications for the future of Europe. So these cases illustrate the need for a more consistent and harmonized approach to the recognition and protection of the rights of same-sex couples across all the European Union. So the EU has made a lot of progress in promoting and protecting rights of LGBTQIA+ individuals, including the adoption of the EU LGBT equality strategy and the establishment of the EU Fundamental Rights Agency. However, there is still work to be done to ensure that the rights of the same-sex couples are fully recognized and protected across the EU. So to this end, there may be opportunities to amend the treaties or directives, regulations, case law to ensure greater consistency and harmonization in the recognition of same-sex marriage across EU. For example, the EU could consider adopting a directive on the recognition of same-sex marriages that would establish clear and uniform rules for the recognition of same-sex marriages in all member states. The common case and similar cases have shown that the EU is committed to promoting and protecting the rights of same-sex couples, and that there is a growing recognition of the importance of ensuring that all individuals are treated equally under the law. By continuing to work towards greater recognition and protection of the same-sex couple, the EU can ensure that it remains a leader in promoting human rights and equality for all. Sorry.
All right, so thank you. Our episode is coming to an end. Thank you, Louise, for being here today. And see you guys next week for another guest.